special entities that are tracking whether the water is at its lowered or raised position, and which state those boxes should be. Now, if the boxes have already been released, they're told to actually float and move to another position, because of course they're not physics bound, and they don't float, they're just trapped in the water. Now, if they haven't been released by the pilot yet, and they raise the water, then the tracks of those trains are changed. So when the player releases the boxes for the first time, they float all the way to the highest position. And all of that's just part of the scripting involved to get a simple puzzle where the player pulls a lever and some boxes float to the surface. This is one of my favorite little sections of Caged, behind the scenes and the walls of the prison. A lot of it goes back to some of the things I really enjoy the most about prison movies and escapes, is seeing the prisoner figure out how to probe the system for weaknesses, how they're working around security, feeling uncomfortable, not sure whether they're going to get caught, or how exactly they're going to escape. And in this section, I tried to recreate that feeling, presenting the player with an unknown number of choices and dangers, making them test the security and find the areas where it's weak. I think a lot of games, a lot of modern games, have a really hard time making the player feel uncomfortable, and I'm not sure why that is. Games often would handhold the player through a section like this, or not allow the player to feel uncomfortable, or not allow them to not know what to do. It's really a shame that we've seen a trend of games moving away from this, because it's a really exciting feeling, really emotional feeling for the player to have. And it's something that keeps the player from feeling like they're moving linearly from A to B, and instead solving problems in their own way with their own creativity. There's a great little trick here in the armory, all the weapons on the wall. Half-Life doesn't support actually positioning any of the weapon models in any position. They lay on the floor, and that's it. So in the armory, there's a bunch of weapons hidden under the floor that you can't see. And when you pick them up, they're set to trigger different models that are positioned on the wall and turn them off to give the simulation that you picked them up off the wall. There's all these little tricks like this in the Half-Life engine. Things that a modern game engine can support. But I like all of that. That's the texture. It's what makes working in an older game engine fun and interesting. There's different challenges to overcome. And I like finding those creative ways of solving those simple problems with overly complicated solutions. Across the room there's the lockdown status board with a little callback to the cell that you escaped from, and I always liked that. It was something from the original Caged. And across the other side we have the priority alerts. I always like to try and add little touches of humor. I don't know. Cruel sustenance pump error floats my boat. I think it's funny. The idea for VETS came from thinking about the prison announcement system, and how in these large facilities in real life, you often have an automated audio system that, while it's cold and wooden, they still have a personality to them. And the question arose, what if somewhere inside there was a sentient component to an automated voice? What would it be like? How would it react to being trapped or essentially enslaved inside a machine? Would it be friendly, or would it go batshit crazy? I think the origin of my interest in robots, as an 80s kid, of course, almost every movie had some sort of robot role. Like the robot in Rocky IV bringing Paulie his beer. And lots of others as well. Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet, which VETS has an homage to with the thinking tape cartridge sound he makes. And of course GLaDOS and Wheatley while working on Portal 2. I could only hope to make some jokes as good as Pinkerton and Wolpop, who are like the most fucking hilarious guys to work with in the universe. VETS turned out to be technically massive. There's over 500 entities for his sequence alone. You know, to put that in perspective, in many cases a whole level might consume less individual entities than VETS does himself. But to me that's some of the charm of making something like this using level scripting, using a raw toolbox to create an experience out of basic pieces, one which can react and interact with the player. A number of those entities that create VETS are consumed by the test code recognition system, a panel that the player can enter codes on. It shares a number of similarities with the floating box water room puzzle earlier in the game. It consists of a set of 3 physical representation of binary coded locks, each which fire an output if the correct code is entered by the player. And the test code seemed like the perfect opportunity to ask the player to go a bit deeper down the rabbit hole. Going to a live external website has certainly been done before, but I've always loved that experience in a game, pushing the player to see the game as something larger, and fiction as something more massive than it appears. VETS was only possible because he was left till the end of the project. Often in development you have these fun ideas, but if you work on them and spend too much time on them too early, you can sidetrack too much of the core experience and derail the whole thing. Leaving VETS towards the end was a bit of a reward for doing all the hard work and the rest of the game. The pressure was off, and I really got to play around with the theme of the game as a foundation. And often that freeform design leads to other exciting things. Certainly after initial testing, VETS was the inspiration for Judgment Bot 9000. I think the first time all the pieces of VETS were together and he spoke and could shoot his pile of tapes on the floor, I could tell I was going to like him as a character. I hope you like him as much as I do, or at least that you feel dirty for pushing his buttons.
Announcement. Malfunction. Vocal. Announcement. System. Operation. Error. User. Control. Disabled. Automatic. Announcement. System. Engaged. Attention. Prisoners. Reporting. Contraband. Will receive 1 additional banana supplement. Vending machine resupply request.